Channel 3's Kevin Hogan was home just enjoying a day off. He had the TV on and heard on network news that an aircraft had flown into the World Trade Center. He called the Channel 3 newsroom to make sure we saw what was happening. Then the second plane hit, and he knew. He packed a go bag and waited for his assignment. And Kevin is joining us now to share some memories that he has of covering the 9/11 attacks. It's hard to believe it's been 20 years, but do you remember that feeling of this isn't an accident?
You know, it took a while to sink in, like
Yes.
everybody else. But I do remember that crystal clear blue day, very dry, gorgeous day, and just trying to comprehend what was going on. One plane, and then the second plane realized that wasn't, and then the Pentagon, and then Pennsylvania. It's, you know, it's like, what is going on?
Right, and like so many journalists, when we hear breaking news, whether you're a day off or not, you wanted to come in and serve, so you immediately packed your bag and probably had no idea.
Not a clue.
So what happened after that? You went to New York City?
Went up to the newsroom, and we were there just trying to decipher, okay, who's going to do what and when. I mean, that took a while, because everybody's still trying to absorb what it was and how huge this was, and, you know, a huge story. Abner Franco, photographer, we were assigned to go down to Stamford train station and go from there. And just seeing the people coming off, covered in dust and filth, and you could tell, obviously, they were ground zero and just trying to escape, and they looked dazed. Everybody had that appearance of being dazed, of not knowing what happened, but they escaped.
Yeah, and same thing from the journalistic perspective of where do we even send crews?
Right.
Do you go to the hospitals, or all the Connecticut people who are coming home? They ended up being the lucky ones. Of course, the cars, later on, we saw all the cars that were left at those train stations that were no one came for them.
No, they were there. They were there in Bridgeport and Milford and Stratford and all the folks.
And then, so you went down, and how did you find yourself? What happened once you got to New York City?
Well, that was a few days later. So I think the first day, that Tuesday night, we were in Stamford, live, went all day until 11, and the station got us a room at the Howard Johnson's in Milford. That was the closest hotel room that we can get. But we got there at 12:15. We were starving, didn't eat all day, ate something, and we couldn't sleep. Like everybody, couldn't sleep. Just kept watching and monitoring what was going on. And finally, we had to get up at 3:15 and go, because we were live in the morning. Live from 4:30 or 5, then the noon, and then 4, 5, 6, and then came back to the station, got gear, because to support other members of our team that were down in New York.
Right. And you were not a Cub reporter at this point. You'd had some experience, you'd been around, yet this was still arguably, I would think, one of the biggest stories you had ever covered.
Definitely.
What was it like as you started to go down there? And what were you thinking? What were you feeling? Because it was certainly an emotional time for all of us, too.
As a journalist, you're always aware of your surroundings. You're looking. I'm seeing convoys of light trucks, you know, pulling portable light equipment heading down to New York. And I'm talking to all my friends in public service. I'm talking to police and fire crews who are going down on their own time, such as, you know, I know there's a team from Montville that went down of police officers with the blessing of the department to go down and to help. Everybody wanted to help. Don't know what you're going to do, but just help. But then also there's the logistics of where you're going to stay, how you're going to manage things, or the bathrooms down there, you know.
Just all those things. You also were, at that point, was your son born? Were you just a new father? Was Connor even alive yet?
Yeah, Connor was just a few months old. So
you had a newborn at home.
Yeah. Well, nope. Connor wasn't around yet. That's right.
So Connor was on the way, but you were an expectant father.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He would be 5 months later.
And did you, as you were going in, and so often we do, press the journalist pause button, and I know you have such experience covering law enforcement and all that, but as you were down at Ground Zero and things were happening around you, were you thinking of that I'm about to have a new baby?
Yes, that was on my mind. Plus, I have older kids.
Yeah.
You know, and I was in contact with them, and that was difficult. You know, it just touching base with them and making sure they're okay. And then obviously when we got together, hugging, and
Right.
it was very tough.
You say one thing you'll never forget was once you made it to ground zero, the smell stays with you.
That smell, it was a putrid smell. I do recall, and I was sharing this over the weekend, growing up in the lower Naugatuck Valley in Ansonia, our grammar school, Assumption, was right next to Farrell, a factory, foundry. And back in the late 50s, early 60s, they would, pour moldings and everything and spew all this debris into the air, and it was that metal smell, burning. And I just recalled instantly that sense, and that was the smell at Ground Zero. And we all wore masks then.
And I don't know if he was at that time, but you have a brother who worked for Amtrak.
Metro North, my brother Mark, Metro North cop. My brother John was assistant chief mechanical officer at Metro North, and he had an office in New York, but he wasn't there. He was in New Haven, and they were coordinating everything. So now I'm in touch with all these resources and police friends and fire who were down there too, and touching base who's going where, and they're bringing the state police, the canine dogs down to assist. And
do you remember maybe one of the stories, we all told so many stories reporting on air nonstop, but was there one story from that time period that really stuck with you that you still think of today, 20 years later?
Mostly coming back, I try to recall some of the stories of the folks we talked to down there while we were there over the weekend, that Saturday, Sunday morning, but I couldn't recall. Maybe running into people in the train station at Grand Central or at Union Station in New Haven, but coming back, just talking to the families, Greenleaf family or others who knew someone who was in the Twin Towers, who escaped, and then the family members of those who didn't escape.
And anything you will do special to mark this day, 20 years later?
Well, there are 12 of us from college every year about this time of year, and it happens to be the weekend of 9/11. We will be riding our bicycles. We do an annual ride, about 180 miles. And we'll all reflect. I know that. We've talked about it. We'll reflect on it and remember those who have passed.
Kevin Hogan, thank you so much for
Thank you,
sharing
Karen.
your experience on 9/11.
Thank you.